call the December meeting of the Holden Beach Inlet and Beach Protection Board special meeting to order. The first item on our agenda to cover would be the agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay, approval of the minutes of the November 21st, 2019 meeting. Are there any changes or corrections? I had a couple. Under status of beach and inlets and issues, can we insert a statement that says reporting on the MOA meeting in that first line somewhere? Yeah, just to make clear that these people weren't actually at our meeting or... I had some typos. I think that was anybody have anything else? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
To approve them as amended?
Yes.
Okay, second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So carried unanimously. Approved as amended. Okay, Christy, I guess we'll go to you for the status of our beach and inlets.
Okay. In regards to the sand search, the data collection and analysis continues with ATM coordinating with the subcontractors. They are looking for good weather in order to finish things up. They are going to be running parallel side scan multi-beam efforts separately for different requirements on hard bottom. Transect spacing will be 500 meters for that hard bottom buffer. In regards to the Inlet Crossing, we met with the agencies and the dredge company last week. Pipe was put on the beach through the end of last week, and pumping began late Monday, December 16th, and will go through early January. They anticipate pumping approximately 7,000 cubic yards per day, with a total of a little over 200,000 cubic yards expected from the project. This dredge is a new dredge to Goodloe Marine, and they've only had it 4 to 5 months, so production volumes may vary and be different than expected, and they are expecting nighttime operations. In regards to UNCW, they are planning a site visit to start collecting data. They thought they would be out last week, and with final exams they didn't get here. We provided a shape file which they requested with survey lines, and honored a request for the use of a gator while they're here for this initial trip. In regards to Florence and Michael projects, we received an award announcement for Michael in the amount of $8 million plus on the week of December 6th. We received an award announcement from Florence in the amount of $15 million plus this week, and we still have to receive and sign approved PWs. And I just want to take a minute here. This isn't on your sheet as far as a bullet with where these projects go. But I want to take a minute to make sure that the board understands, besides the amount of work that goes into the grants portal, we really are beginning to see that success with the award of these projects and projects coming through and making things move through the system has a lot to do with networking and the contacts that are made. And I'd like to take a minute to say that this week's movement of Florence, I think, is specifically related to the efforts that David made. He was working 3 phones during our inlet hazard meeting the other day, really to make this happen and let it go ahead and shake loose from OLA. And I just think that credit needs to be given where credit's due. For Dorian, the extra survey should be complete by the end of this week, and Fran will begin his analysis for an updated memo to FEMA. He expects to get to FEMA by mid-January, the updated report. And we're continuing to upload information in the grants portal as far as that storm goes. We're still waiting to hear about the project study selection for the 50-year project. And Fran is coordinating with DCM and the Corps for the permit extensions on the SDI 5 permit.
Was there anything else?
Yes, I'd like to comment on the Inlet Crossing Ben Widener project regarding the 200,000 cubic yards. I alluded to this in my comments to the commission, the Board of Commissioners the other night. The 200,000 cubic yards is the volume calculated in the cut. It is the technical term is in situ. So the delivered amount of sand to the beach when the water runs out of it is going to be less than 200,000 cubic yards. If he finds that, recede from that deposition, plus the water will leave. In situ is the Corps of Engineers will not even estimate what the delivered amount, the end result will be. I've seen academic papers over the course of 40 years where great lengths there have been explanations to great length describing how the variability of the deposition ends up being ranging from 15% of the cut amount to 60%. Sometimes it's 70%. We will just have to see what's left. So don't think that there's going to be 200,000 yards of sand put on the beach. It's going to be less, and it's probably going to be significantly less. Thank you.
I have a question. I know it's not on the agenda. I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up, but I would like to just ask a couple of questions about the Inlet Hazard Area meeting.
It's not part of this agenda, and it's really the purview of the planning, the planning director is the technical expertise on that. I hesitate to even try to attempt answering the questions in this form, especially it not being on the agenda, not knowing what your question is. I'm not prepared for anything related to the Inlet Hazard Area. I'm sorry.
I would like to make a comment on that line. So there was an article that came out, I saw it this morning on the public hearing that was held. They identified me as a member of the IDPB. I didn't say that. I didn't talk to the reporter or anything, so I'm not sure where that came from, but I was not there representing the IBPB or the town in any capacity. I was there as an individual citizen. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that and do that.
Okay.
I have a question going back to 200,000 cubic yards. Is that true of all these previous pumpings as well? Because the data says we need 200,000 cubic yards every year to keep the beach stable. Is that also maybe 60%? Or 15 to 60%?
Yeah,
variable?
if you want to use 60% as the number, whatever the yield was that 120,000 cubic yards, that amount would be whatever the percentage of what we need to maintain the minimum position of the entire beach. I think that answers yes.
So we're just bringing it up now just for the sake of accuracy. It's, yes, we're saying 200,000, but it's not really 200,000.
They're gonna take out 200,000, but they may not
If you
put
dig
down
into the science
200,000.
behind it, what ends up on the beach is something less.
I guess I just couldn't resist the opportunity to provide a bit of tutoring for the board in terms of the technical aspects of what the in situ and the Corps of Engineers calculates as a volumetric in place versus what ends up on the beach.
So then just to clarify that, we'll get a final survey after they're done to determine exactly how much was placed?
We won't get a survey. The Corps of Engineers, as the primary contracting entity, will be getting a survey.
Okay, and then I guess just to follow up on Tim's question, someone will get a number which we'll then add to our table, and we will add the 120, whatever the number ends up being, to our table, correct?
No. Whatever the profile ends up being will be captured in the annual survey that we do. And that amount will be, no, I correct myself. That's a yes and a no.
Okay. You know the chart I'm talking about, right?
That will be updated to reflect that, but the reality picture is where it'll be surveyed in April, and we'll
Right.
see. I mean, there'll be some equilibration that occurs once it finishes, and then we'll do a survey and capture it. Yeah, but that'll be a number that gets stuck in that table.
Okay. And the number that gets stuck will be what's actually placed and not what we dredge? So would it be the 200? I think that relates to.
I'll have to check to
Okay.
see what that is. It would not make sense for it to be an in situ number, in my opinion.
We just need to make sure it's consistent, right? With what we have in the table already.
Well, I don't know if what we have in the table is
Okay.
finite in those terms either.
Okay.
It's better not having a table at all, I guess.
I had some questions. So we had the Merit come and visit, correct?
We did.
Briefly.
They had to go to Oregon Inlet for an emergency situation, and the plan is for them to come back, but we don't have a time date certain on that.
Okay. And I was making notes while you were speaking. For the, it would have been Dorian, did we finish the depth of closure surveys? Did you say that?
I said they're still working on it. They hope to finish by the end of this week with good weather, and then
Okay.
Fran will turn the report hopefully to FEMA by mid-January.
Did you want to address the Christmas tree project?
Go ahead.
As far as Christmas trees go, we're going to try to coordinate with the Boy Scouts on getting some trees that are left over at the end of the season. I've contacted some local businesses, have commitment from at least one, and waiting to hear from some others. The Boy Scouts were going to check about a conservation badge and get back to me. They had their meeting this week, so I'm expecting to hear back.
Mike, did you have anything on?
No.
Okay. Mike has been working on that with the Boy Scouts. Kind of his pet project.
Yeah.
I shared with David and Christy, but I also wanted to share with you. There's been a lot of feedback coming to HBPOA regarding people on the dunes, especially on the east end and the far west end. People crawling up in the dunes for with photographers for photos, children playing hide and seek, running little remote control cars, playing in the dunes. And we're hopeful that the signs will help educate people whenever they come in. They're still on order, right?
The signs are in.
Oh, they are? Okay. So did anybody else have any questions about the status of the beach and inlet or other issues?
I'd like to make a comment regarding the feedback that you're receiving from the HBPOA and people in the dunes. Please forward that type of dialogue to the town so that we can at least have the opportunity to proactively attempt to manage those circumstances. You know, I have no cognizance of people running remote control cars. You know, my frame of reference is when we used to four-wheel drive down on the end of Ocean Isle Beach back in the Wild West days. And so my imagination goes to that. It was, yes, I'm admitting to less than tame youth, but unless we are apprised of those circumstances when they're happening, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it perhaps could be curtailed, nipped in the bud when that happens, instead of allowing it to accrue over time and then it become a statement in public whereby you're saying you're getting a lot of feedback. So please, if you get that, pass it on to us, and that will allow us to directly engage with the people that are making the complaints. As far as that goes, please suggest to them that the appropriate manner to make a complaint and is to advise the authorities that are responsible for enforcing those ordinances.
So if they see someone doing something untoward,
if there's any type of violation, they should contact the town, whether that be the police department or the receptionist. It really doesn't matter. Or we'll get it to the right place. The important thing is for the town to be apprised that something awry is going on. I can't do anything about it if I don't know
agreed
something's
completely. I hear you. So if there's nothing else on status of the beach and inlets, then we'll move on to number 5 on our agenda. Discussion and possible action on the quarterly IDPD newsletter. Christy gave you guys a copy of that, and there's what she's written up. Printed with a blue folder.
Did this come out in the packet?
It did.
I apologize for not scanning it earlier.
So you guys are reading it. Let me know when you're done.
Okay. I'm done.
Okay. If you guys remember, we were charged with doing this quarterly, and we decided that we were going to do kind of an end-of-year wrap-up. And so this is it. I had a couple of suggestions. Under plans and reports, it says an update was provided to our beach and inlet management plan this year. The name of that paper was Oceanfront and Inlet Management Plan. So it might be easier for people to find it if we put that out there, because that's what the link says. And on that document and on the annual beach monitoring report, you talk about how you can find it under links on the website. Could we just include a link?
I am not sure. This goes to the clerk to put online. It's not through me, and I can ask her about doing that, but
Okay.
I'm not going to guarantee how much work it is and what she will have to do. So I'll ask her about it.
Okay. Under projects beach renourishment, can we update that to reflect the current situation?
We can update it to say what I said in my speaking notes, but
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to update in real time.
No, I know. I would just like it to match what you just spoke and what David announced at the commissioners meeting, because that would be confusing to people if you were at the meeting and you heard one thing from David and then we send out something that's different. And then under other news, Mike, you had asked to add the MOA and the Brunswick County Beaches Consortium information.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's there.
It's
just
there.
The quarterly
Yeah, it's
long-term
there.
MOA and
Yeah.
Brunswick Shoreline Protection meeting right after Waterway Association.
Okay.
Just there.
Under the project, should we advertise the fact we're doing the UNCW engagement and these other miscellaneous, keep off the Dune Signs, mats for the walkways, that's all kind of stuff I think that would interest the community that that's happening. And it lets them know that you're, doing these other, albeit minor, you're doing these other activities as well.
What was that, mats?
Maps and the UNCW
Walkway mats,
engagement.
keep off the Dune Signs. I always think about the vegetation because that's always an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Proactively maintaining our dune vegetation.
The mats, the UNCW projects, and the KOD signs.
Just to give them another little tidbit of positive activity kind of thing. I like the format.
Mhm.
Definitely, it's short and sweet and it's readable and people will take a look at it.
If everyone, does anybody else have any comments about the newsletter?
About the what?
The newsletter? Maybe we should take a motion to adopt that then?
I'll make a motion to adopt it
With the changes?
with the changes we just discussed.
I second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
I
Any opposed? And motion carried unanimously. Okay, next in our packet is a discussion of the meeting schedule for the upcoming year, and I came up with dates of when we would be normally scheduled to meet. There were a couple that needed to be changed. If you guys can look at that, and if you're happy with it, I'd like a motion to adopt that.
Motion to adopt.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's what we have for the upcoming year. Exciting.
Will some of our terms be coming up in the upcoming year?
I believe yours comes up in July. Someone else's. I don't know if I have that with me.
Maybe?
Maybe. I don't know if I have that with me.
It's okay, we can check on that later.
Okay.
I think it's me and Dean, right? No, I don't know.
I don't know. That'd be in.
I thought I was the same time as Mike, but maybe that was.
I think she's right. I think it's Dean,
Uh-huh.
and then I think that it was Richard, Mike, and
Vicki were 3 years,
uh-huh.
and Dean and I were 2.
Oh, okay. I'll have to get out and pound the pavement.
You can just pound right here.
Inlet and Beach Protection Board announcements. The Brunswick Shoreline Consortium, their next meeting is postponed until January. Whenever we get the date, David should get an email that he'll forward. I plan to attend. I don't know if anybody else plans to attend or not, but Christy, can we send that out to the rest of the board in case anybody wants to join me?
We can when we get it, but just know that we don't always get it a lot in advance, so.
And be apprised of the open meetings law too. If a quorum of you attend, we need to know that so we can make the appropriate announcement that a quorum may exist in the beach and in the board.
Our next meeting is January the 23rd. We talked about the form. She gave you the form. You can either turn it into her today or you can turn it in at the front desk, but she needs that from everybody. And we discussed the inlet hazard area, that I was not there as a inlet and beach protection board representative. I was there as an individual. That being said, I would really encourage all of you to read the materials. If you have any questions, give me a call and I'll send you the materials, but to please read it and please comment. Okay, consensus report to the Board of Commissioners. Christy and David had talked to Mike and I at our agenda meeting about changing how we do this.
Yeah, I'll give an explanation to try to explain why we're looking at doing it differently. Last month you guys sat for a while and we're trying to capture things. A lot of that, when you go back and put that in the memo, is the status of the inlet and beach report that I give. And sometimes the commissioners have already been given the information by David at the Tuesday night meeting, and we're trying to figure out what you should repeat and not repeat. So what we're trying to do is attempt to, you got this today, which were my talking points, and to make it run a little more quickly and not have to go back and Vicky write things ahead of time and change based on the report, is to maybe just insert this with your memo and whatever else you want to add that happened at the meeting. But that way you're not having to go back through and try to recapture points. That was the purpose.
So here's what I was thinking. Last month we talked about, okay, the bosses, asked us put together a plan, and we have this plan now, and more or less the meat of the plan is this list of 19 initiatives. So every month we get together and we talk about here, and they did that because there's so much going on. The town staff is doing so much work. It's hard to keep it all straight. The dredging versus renourishment versus this versus that, and permitting and whatnot. So my thought was, we should be using this plan, because truthfully it is our plan, it should be our roadmap, as, here's the things that are active this particular month. Here's the stuff that isn't active. So they, the commissioners can pick that up and look at it and say, okay, we did, they were, 5 different items of the 19 are active, and here's the status. Well, they may chew on it further and look at, well, why aren't we doing anything on these other ones, numbers 14 and 15, that kind of thing. So I do like this, I do very much like this, but I just wonder, could we, in this list, in parentheses say, okay, our plan is the Ocean Inlet Management Plan, OIMP. Could we just do in parentheses, put down an indicator of which ones are active, basically. So if I look through this list, the first one is number 2, second one is number 3, the UNCW are items 5 and 7. So we could reference, so they would have a reference, okay, here's the ones that are active, and they'd be able to look back at this plan that we hope they pick up and use as their framework again going forward. They can see quickly which ones are active, and they may have questions about other ones and whatnot, which they would, then come back to the town management group, maybe ask questions or, that sort of thing.
And I see what you're saying. I'll let the board talk about that. I did go back to that plan per your request from last time and went in that order, because otherwise
yes. Yeah,
otherwise I would have reported on the Inlet Crossing and Florence Michael first as like our big things
Yes.
breaking.
Yep.
But I see what you're saying, but I feel like a lot of times we would be putting things on there that are the numbered list that you're talking about. I'm gonna think back when I was looking at that list, like easements. Easements we shouldn't have to talk about again because
Right, and they should know, the commissioners should know that.
So every
kind of
month
thing.
it would just be showing up as, I don't know that you would
No,
really
I wouldn't
call
even,
that.
I wouldn't even put it on the list. I would do it just like you did it, but just can I pass that down?
I have it.
No,
Yes,
I
yes.
did some doodling,
okay.
I did some doodling on it, just as a cross-reference.
I think we should be reporting progress on these, because some of them are completed, some of them are, in process, some of them are pending.
If you wanted to get into that level of detail, but if nothing happened this particular month, maybe that's not necessary. And I think, as Christy said, there's the big 3 or 4 that we're continuing to work on, and the commissioners are aware of that, but occasionally some of the other items pop up, and, okay, what's happening with UNCW, or that sort of thing. Or they may be interested to ask the question, well, what about initiative 13? When are we going to start looking at that? And it may, precipitate those kinds of conversations. If they're using this as their kind of their reference. You know what I mean? It gives them a way to keep everything coordinated. So next year when they start talking budget, they may be looking at the ones that are not active and start asking, hey, can we do something on this particular initiative this year?
Guys, you have discussion? What do you think? I did print out the chart if anybody wanted to reference it.
I have a comment. First of all, I think that the operational aspects of implementing the beach and inlet management plan are a management responsibility that is a direct David do, and it's a dialogue that I would relay to the board, that I find it redundant to come in and make a report to this board, and then this board in turn around and inform the board. I do take exception to the Dean, your statement that that there's so much going on that the commissioners can't keep this stuff straight. We go to great lengths and make great effort of informing the board on all of these matters as they come forward. And I think that if you go back and look at the Board of Commissioners minutes, that all of these issues have been addressed to the Board of Commissioners in public meetings, regular meetings, and in my mid-month update to the Commissioner's status reports on that, those very same subjects. So I find the perspective that the Inlet and Beach Board has an operational role in carrying out these projects and informing the commissioners to be obtuse. It just doesn't work for me. I think that it is redundant and it's not very efficient. In fact, I think that that type of perspective is beyond the scope of the Inlet and Beach Board's charter. Nowhere in the charter, in the ordinance, does it say that the Inlet and Beach Board has an operational role in telling the commissioners what goes on as far as the status of projects. Your role is to develop a plan, and it's management's role to carry that plan out operationally. My job as the manager to tell you the commissioners and this board, as a clerk to this board, what the reality of the circumstance is, not what you want to hear. So I know that that's probably not a popular thing, but that's my perspective on the matter.
Anyone comment? My comment on that is that we do have to submit a report in writing each month over what we're doing and what the status of what was discussed. And I agree that sometimes it seems awkward. But that's what they ask us to do, and I don't mind doing it. And I kind of see where they're coming from, and that it's a very good summary for them to see what's going on. And somebody commented at the BOC meeting this week that the summary's good. It keeps everybody on the same page, the public as well. So that's always a good thing.
Well, I think that the text of the officer's duty is that it reads in subparagraph D, it says that the chair of the beach board shall submit a report in writing of any suggestions, plans, recommendations, and the like to the town clerk. And that's probably the point of friction, is that I think that is vague and not very clear as to what this board is to do, and it causes me issue. I just don't think that it's very efficient, and that work as far as reporting to the board as far as what's going on is being accomplished, and the Board of Commissioners certainly has not provided me with any feedback to the contrary.
What I recall is when we had that initial joint meeting, that they instructed us on what they wanted, and we we had to prepare the memo, and we had to all vote on it at the meeting. It wasn't that I could just write this up here. And that's where we've been coming from. You guys remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a bad precedent to base future action on.
Well, that's kind of not our purview though, right? That belongs to the Board of Commissioners to change their mind and direct us differently.
I'll just comment that when that was set up, I know there was probably a purpose for it, but and we discussed this with Vicki and Mike in the agenda setting meeting, but when you think about it, planning and zoning, the Parks and Rec Board, none of those submit monthly reports to the Board of Commissioners in their packet unless there's an action item that is going on. So I'm not sure if it's something that may be looked at, but I would just say it is a little tedious in nature for the time that it consumes.
At that point in time, you didn't have the beach and inlet plan accomplished yet either.
Where I'm coming from, that's what we were directed to do by the VOC, so I'm going to wait until I hear from them to change. Do you all agree? What are your thoughts?
I agree with that. I mean, again, that directive should be coming from the commissioners if they do want to change it. And, again, Pat is working on the item that came up in the town meeting where there's going to be
The process for
try to
requesting.
put a little more structure to the actions and tasks that come from the commissioners. Because we're here to help them, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we certainly don't want the town management staff to be doing extra work just to
Right.
bolster communications that they feel are already adequate and in place.
I mean, you guys hear me every month. I always say, okay, we're to that awkward point of the meeting. I say that every month. And every month I sit before our meeting and I write this thing up thinking, I wonder what we're gonna say. And it comes out, you
So
know,
in essence, what Christie provided, she's already done that, and
well, she's provided the update stuff. She wouldn't have provided the other items, so we'll,
anything that came up in the meeting, yes.
because
yes.
there's more that what we're looking at than just what David reports to the commission.
Or it's an enhancement to what she's done.
Because in the past, what's happened is I go to the BOC meeting, I make frantic notes of everything David says, try and incorporate that into the memo, and then we make sure that we hope that David or Christie gives the same report and the same content to us. And sometimes she'll say something in our meeting that wasn't said, or usually it's that something isn't said in our meeting that was said at the BOC meeting, and I've already put it in our draft memo. So that's where it takes time, because we're like, wait, she didn't say that at this meeting. So
And
that's
a
what
lot
you're
of that
referring-
is things change daily.
Yeah.
As in yesterday.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Things change daily.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to our agenda, we're to the consensus of the board, consensus of report to the Board of Commissioners. Christie gave her, she updated us on what they're thinking that they shared with Mike and I at the agenda setting meeting. We've got the copy that she provided. So then,
Did you add additional stuff?
I did. So I just followed our normal procedure, came up with a draft. I'll just read it and we'll go back through it. Inland Beach Protection Board, IBPB, excuse me, met December 19th, and the following issues and topics were discussed and addressed. Status of the beach and inlets.
Is it on?
Yeah. Staff provided an overview of current and future projects, efforts, and conditions, and issues relative to the beach strand and inlets. A copy of the manager's report from the December BOC meeting is attached. Highlights include, and then I just listed out kind of what we discussed.
Wait a minute.
Wait. This is my report to you guys. That's not a copy of David's report that he gave to the BOC.
Okay.
Because that includes a lot more stuff than just beach stuff.
Okay. A copy of, how would you like to phrase that?
The assistant town manager's report to the IBPB.
Okay, so that sentence would read, a copy of the assistant town manager's report to the IBPB is attached. This is where we should talk. I just had highlights included, and I wrote down what I was aware of. FEMA reimbursement for storm events. The town is currently working on reimbursements for 5 storms. Category G for Florence, $15,861,220. Michael, $8,547,505 were awarded. Funds for Dorian, approximately $4.5 million, are still pending. Additional surveys to depth of closure should be completed by the end of the week. The town has submitted revisions for Irene and Matthew for approximately $300,000.
Why are we doing that?
Well,
Why are we doing that?
Yeah, this is why we were going to try to, because I know it's hard for you to write it ahead of time, but try to just go
it's not hard. I mean, I'm just
from this, because we didn't talk about, some of that's coming from what was either picked up at the board meeting Tuesday night or,
We didn't
but
say anything about we're working 5 storms simultaneously today. It wasn't in Christie's report.
right. If that came, I wrote this before. I had Christie's report based on the BOC meeting notes that I took. So then we've come to a split here. Our choices are to either attach this report as an attachment, or just summarize it out, or both. That's our choice.
Well, we had agreed the other day that it would be attached, the assistant town manager's report would be attached to the preamble that would be on top of it.
Well, we talked about it, but David, I don't think I have the authority to just say, yeah, this is what we're doing. I mean, I think I've got to ask the rest of the board.
You know, why don't we just try to make this simple and take on Christie's thing here, okay, her memo. You know, maybe I would add another bullet point. I'd probably put, you know, that the mats are on order and the signs are on order.
I've got that in
Okay.
there.
Because just like Dean said, if you take this and look at the chart, you know, this pretty well tells us where we are on this chart, okay? Instead of getting into all that. You know, and then just make a summary of what, you know, the status, you know, let this be our status of beach and inlet, okay? And then just write a summary of what, you know, that we discussed in the newsletter, the schedule, and just keep it simple.
So basically then what I'm hearing you say is, you're thinking, we'll say that we attach the Christie's report, take out the stuff that would have been covered in that report. Don't cover that in the memo, and then add in the stuff that is not in there, correct?
Yes, any secondary things that we talk about.
Okay, so, for example, the FEMA reimbursement for the storm events, we take that out. Take out the information on Dorian. Sand search was on her report, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The bin widener, all that's on her report,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the dredging was on her, is that on her report? We talked about the core engagement,
Mm-hmm.
that was on, is that on her report?
Yep.
UNCW, that's probably not on her report,
Right,
right?
that
she's
was-
got that to add
That was
on.
on her report.
Sure.
No, it's on the report. It's on the report.
Okay, and then keep off the Dune Signs, which were approved in the adopted budget, are still on order. That's not on there, right?
Right.
No, but they're
But
here.
they're here.
Yeah.
Yep.
We just have to go on the dunes and put them on.
And I wrote down, it's hoped that the signs will discourage people from walking in the dunes. Additional mats will be ordered this winter. The town will again be collecting Christmas trees.
They've been ordered and they're here.
Oh. The town will again be collecting Christmas trees from area vendors for placement along the dune line, and the Boy Scouts will be helping. Quarterly IBP.
Well, we didn't talk about that today, did we?
Yeah.
We did. What was I?
A draft of the year-end IBP newsletter was reviewed and edited. It will be distributed by, via town blast by the town. IBP meeting schedule. The meeting schedule for the upcoming year was reviewed and approved. Outside meeting updates, Brunswick County Shoreline Protection. The IBP will be represented at the next scheduled meeting in January, and the board's next meeting will be January 23rd, 2020. I mean, that should take this report down to less than a page. You good with that?
Yeah.
You want a motion to adopt that?
And Christie, you're okay with continuing to produce that short list of bullet items for status? That we can
I
use every
am,
month?
but my plan is not to put it in your agenda packet and hand it to you just as David hands his town manager report when you guys get here. So it won't be in the agenda packet that goes out. It will be given to you at the time because then we're going to discuss it in here.
How about my request to put a cross-reference back to the plan items? Would that be doable?
To that chart.
I can attempt to do that.
We're gonna ask the Board of Commissioners what their expectations are. As the clerk to the board, I need direction from them on what their expectations are of me regarding the operational aspects of it. I'm gonna continue to ask them what what the manager's role in the execution of these projects are. And I think that it would be good for this board to have a better refined understanding of just where they lash into the advisory role that they're charged to perform.
Okay, so then
Should we add
let's,
that to our memo?
pardon me,
Should we add that to our memo?
that the request is going to be made, and then we could talk about it next month, assuming Dave is able to do that. So hold off on putting any cross-reference in. Again, we're here to help the commissioners, so if it's something they want, then yes. If not, then we shouldn't do it.
That's a dialogue that I need to have with the commissioners. It's not a dialogue that I think that should be put into a memo from this board to the commissioners.
Okay.
So then do we want to, somebody make a motion to adopt this memo as amended for this month?
Yes, I'll make a motion.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Tim,
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along, public comments?
I'd like to speak as a resident of Holden Beach, West End. The dune situation with people on the dunes. First off, David, I would like to point out there have been some phone calls, and this is during high season, so it's a difficult situation, where one of our owners did call into the police, into the town, about the kids playing with the motorized cars in the dune area. There was no action really, but during high season, the police are not going to drop everything to ride out to the West End. So all I'm going to say is, it's a wonderful thing to call it in and report it because you can see that there's a pattern. But we don't necessarily expect during high season that anything's going to be done about it. That's number one. Number two, down in the West End, there are less than 10 permanently occupied houses, okay? Unless we can have some sort of dune protection education memo or something that is left at the rental properties, people who come in are not going to know what is good behavior or bad behavior in a lot of cases, and aren't going to know that if you see something that you feel is destructive, make this call to this number. So I would actually ask whether or not something that could be done that could be useful would be to prepare an easily understandable what the dunes are, what they're about, how we protect them and why, and what to do if you see something going on that you think is destructive. People have the right to use their property to go through the dunes, and what one person might say is destructive, another might say they're just out there whatevering, okay? So those are two things as West End I'm just raising, but I really do feel that on this island, with the majority of the houses being rented out, it's not the owners that are the issue of them being aware and educated. It's how we get those renters to understand so that they respect the use of the dune system.
So that would be a great thing to do in your new format, when that is officially approved, if that's at the next BOC, to lay out those, hey, I want to come back to the IDP and ask them to put together a memo that could go to the agencies, and maybe there's other legwork that has to be done. But that would be nice to see your request, the commissioner request, come in that format with just this item. I think it's a good idea.
I think your comment's right on target about it being an education issue. That I think if people knew what they don't understand, they don't know. So, because a lot of the comment I also have heard people complaining about, and it'd be residents complaining about renters, is that people pull their stuff off of the beach and they put it in the dunes, you know, like their tents and their stuff, and
Yep,
they're putting it in the dunes instead of right on the new grass. And that it's,
And there's probably down in the west end, the wedding aspect of it too. Hey, I want to take some pictures, I want a little seagrass in the photos, and let's pull everybody, 25 yards into the dunes and get some good pictures.
right, yeah, and I heard about the photographers on the east end doing like family shoots, and they want to go up into the dunes and take the pictures, because then you just have this beautiful background.
They do, they put them
But-
right in the dunes, yeah.
You know, and if it
She
was one
can't
family,
speak as a commissioner right
Right.
now, so we're just generally talking as public here.
yeah.
Yeah.
The complaint I heard was that if it were one family getting their photo session done, it'd be one thing, but that you've got so many active photographers every day doing photographs during the golden hour that it's, becomes.
We need a dog park and a photo area.
Hey guys, I've had photographers a couple of times come and ask if they can take wedding pictures in my pergola that I have on my, which we're happy to do.
Yeah,
So photographers are looking for good places to shoot.
your pergola.
Yeah,
Email this lady.
my pergola. That's right. Okay. That was my
Thanks.
comment.
Mike, did you have anything to?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, that seems to be all of our public comments, so if that's the case, I think we're ready to adjourn if there's a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, before we do that, I want to wish you guys a really happy holiday.
Thank you.
And tell you how much I really appreciate the efforts that you put into all this, because it's a lot, and I recognize that, and I appreciate each and every single one of you. So,
Thank you. You too.
Same to you, Vicki.
now we'll take a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.